Okay, the time is what?
Sorry, 6:02.
How was it?
Okay, the Board of Trustees of Crystal City Independent School District will meet in special session at 6 p.m. Monday, August the 16th, 2021, in the Administration Building, Room.
Reyes, it's August 12th, Thursday. You're reading the wrong agenda.
Thursday?
We have another one? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, the Board of Trustees, City Independent School District will meet in special session 6 p.m. Thursday, August 12, 2021, Administration Building Boardroom, 613 West Zavala, Crystal City, Texas, 78839. Ms. Carlos, roll call, please.
Mr. Eric Garcia,
Here.
Mr. Reyes Espinosa,
Here.
Mr. Cruz Mata,
Here.
Mr. Victor Bonilla III, absent. Mrs. Nora Flores Guerrero,
Present.
Mrs. Melissa Marquez Guerrero will be absent, and Mrs. Peggy Young will be absent.
Okay, item number 3, moment of reflection. Item 4, audience to patrons. Do we have any?
Fine. Fine.
Where do we have that thing when we tell them the procedure? All this. Okay, we have Mr. Alberto Gonzalez under audience to patrons. Before you start, sir, I'm gonna read the procedure as required by law, and then board procedures for handling public concerns. The public comment portion of our meeting is available to members of the public who wish to address the board regarding agenda items and items that are not on the posted agenda. Anyone who wants to speak during the public comment must sign up prior to the start of the meeting and list the agenda items they want to discuss. Each public comment speaker will be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes to address the board. Any public testimony speaker who is speaking through a translator will receive up to 10 minutes to address the board. If a group of people want to be heard on the same topic, the board asks that they designate a spokesman to avoid the needless repetition. The board shall not allow no more than 15 minutes per speaker on items not on tonight's agenda. The board has adopted rules to preclude the abuse of the open forum by, for example, anyone unlessly repeating the same comments or complaints meeting after meeting. Please keep your comments or criticisms civil and courteous. Please also avoid using profanity and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Last, we ask that you do not discuss students who are not your own children. Yelling inappropriate, uncivil, or discriminatory comments will not be permitted. In the event your comment in the judgment of a presiding officer constitutes a complaint or charge against an employee or officer, it may be necessary for me to interrupt and ask you to stop and direct you to proceed with the school district formal grievance procedures or to have the item heard in executive session, depending on the nature of the complaint. If the speaker is seeking board resolution of a specific complaint, that concern should be addressed through the district's grievance procedure, which can be found on outline and included in policy DGBA, FNG, and GF. Grievance forms can be obtained at any campus administration office or in the central office. Who can be the the time. We're gonna give him 5 minutes.
Got it.
Okay, so we're ready. Mr. Gonzalez, we're ready.
First of all, I didn't wear a suit, like people over there, but excuse me. I'm here to talk a little bit about the propositions that you have before you today. Bond issues. You have 3 propositions, A, B, and C. And so I really just wanted to discuss a couple of things so that I could, maybe you can ask questions to your financial advisor and to people that have to do with the bond. You do know that we are at 38 cents right now with an INS, and the state of Texas has a cap of 50 cents. What I'm concerned with is this, that if the bond then goes over or close to the 50 cents, and something happens, something major happens to the district within a few years from now, then you would not have any recourse to go to get more bonds to correct anything that the district might have. So that is one of the concerns that I do have, is that we as a district should not reach the threshold of 50 cents with a bond. But I do offer a couple of options here. As I was looking at your fund balance and what you're proposing. A couple of things though. I don't know what is being proposed in the proposition A. I do know what is in C and B, because it's very, it's explained there. So if you're looking at your fund balance of $10 million, you could very easily fund proposition B and C, because that's only 1.5 million. Now, if you fund proposition C, that brings you down. Remember that the state of Texas says that you should have three months worth of expenditures. We all know that. But if you pay off proposition C, you're down to 5.5 months. So you still have money left over. If you fund proposition B with fund balance, you still have 5 months of expenditures for the district. So proposition C and B can be easily be absorbed by your fund balance. Now, if you're looking at the 3 months, if you pay A and C and B, you still have $3.5 million left over that you can do things with those $3.5 million. And I don't know, Mr. Ramirez will probably know a little bit more about what's going on this year, but more than likely you're going to also save a little bit more money this year. I don't know how much, he can probably tell you that. So if you have 3.5 million and you add $1 million or $2 more million, you actually have $5 million, $4 million left that you can do some of these projects without having to go to a bond election. Now, as you know, as I know, that fund balance is for the kids, all for the kids. Whatever is good for the kids, I'm all for it. However, we also have to be very prudent for taxpayers' dollars. So if there's a different option, sometimes it's better to go that option than necessarily just go to a bond election, because you never know what can happen in a bond election, how people will take it. And as you know, here in Crystal City, we're up to here in Texas, and you could have a lot of opposition. So I'm kind of bringing that information to you. Now on Proposition A, I don't know exactly what's on Proposition A, but if I'm guessing more or less, because of what I heard, not because I know, I might learn a little bit more later on today. But it might be about artificial turf here and there, tennis courts, things of that nature. Well, you know, here's one thing that I'm gonna share with you. If you do the 8.3 million and it's artificial turf for the baseball field or for the softball field, artificial turf has a life expectancy about 10 years. So if you pay off that particular bond in 10 years, you can't afford it. You're gonna have to tax yourself, I don't know, 15, 13 cents. So you're gonna go over the threshold of 50 cents. He will know a little bit more about that. You can ask him that. But if you're going to extend it for 30 years, yeah, then you can afford it. It might be 5 cents, 6 cents. You might know a little bit more about that. But see if this makes sense. If you buy a car and you pay it in 5 or 6 years, that's the life expectancy of a car. It might last you 7 years. But would you fund a car for 20 years? The answer is no.
So, Gonzalo, do you have 1 minute?
Because if you fund a car for 20 years, then you're gonna be still be paying the car after 20 years, and it's not even your car anymore. Same thing with artificial turf. If he has a life expectancy of 10 years, and you fund it for 30 years, that artificial turf is out of the way, and you're still paying for it. So my thing to you is, there are other options. There are other options than just going for a bond. And you don't have to hurry to get into a bond. There's always a next year. You can always look at your fund balance. How does your fund balance compare to the 10 million now and whatever else you're going to be adding to it? And maybe you can do the same projects, frugal projects, very thought well projects, and still do it within your fund balance.
Time.
I'm gonna extend it for 1 more minute if you are not finished, sir.
Yeah, it's just that I didn't have much time to start looking at all the numbers. That's why I know I probably learned a little bit about the numbers from Estado Hinojosa. But ask those questions. And what is it? And Proposition A, it doesn't explain what you're going to do with that money. And Proposition B, you have to say that it's going to be for the track field, because in the stadium it has 1,000 seat of 1,000 capacity. If you're going to be doing the baseball field and artificial turf, you don't have to post it because it doesn't have a capacity to be 1,000. But you will have to be very open to the public. What do you want to do with that money? So my thing to you all is, look at other options. The money is there not to keep always forever in fund balance, is to use it when you need it. And if this is the need that you have identified for the district, then use it, because it belongs to the kids. It doesn't belong to anybody else but the kids.
Time.
I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we go to, number 5, action item A. Consider an approval of an order calling a bond election in the district and other matters, incidents and related thereto. Do we have a presentation or just, or?
We have present with us our financial advisor from Matt Lujan from Estrada and Hinojosa, and also Juan Aguilera, our bond counsel from Escamilla Ponic.
Do we have any board members that have any questions for them? Mr. Mata?
In hearing Dr. Gonzalez, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they had mentioned that the taxes were going to stay the same at 38 cents. Is that true? Still true?
You'll get, we have an answer, or, yes, you can come over here or address it from there, sir, or.
And my second question would also be, is there any other options as it was discussed by Dr. Gonzalez?
Especially about Proposition A. Maybe explain a little bit more.
Can you answer the question, and then if Ms. Guerrero has a question, you can address it, or Mr. Estrada?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Matt Lujan with Estrada and Harrison. We serve as financial advisors to the district.
One of the person that has, I mean, you might answer to him, facing him, because I don't know if he can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me, Mr. Mata?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. To answer your question regarding the tax rate, The gross tax rate is increasing. That's not due to the bond election, that's due to the decrease in the assessed values. So we actually saved, with that recent refund that we did, we lowered debt service payments, especially between now and 2022 and 2028. So your debt service overall did drop due to the decrease in taxes, I think it's about 12% AB value.
Oh, what, I can barely hear you. It kind of like cuts off, so I can't.
Is there a mic?
The microphone's over there, sir, that's why. On
Okay,
that table.
then you can,
Sorry.
You can sit there.
I need to hit the button, or is it on?
It's on.
Mr. Mata, can you hear me better now?
Oh, yeah, way better.
Okay. What I was mentioning before was, as you recall, we just did the recent refunding, and during that refunding, we did lower the overall debt service throughout the term of the refunding, but we did focus front-loaded savings between 2022 and 2028. So that service during those years did drop, and we were anticipating about the same tax rate. But what happened was your assessed values dropped about 12%, and that's what's going to be the difference in the tax rate, is to cover the reduced debt service. To cover that, what's going to be an increase in the INS tax rate. But there's no projected increase with the proposition A, B, or C.
did you get the answer, sir?
I'm still a little bit confused. So the tax rate would go up. I mean, and how much?
Mr. President, I'll be recognized.
Yes, sir.
The tax rate, public notice, it was in the Sentinel for this week. Because of the lowered property values, we're calculating the tax worksheet to be 41 cents. The district currently has a fund balance in INS that will be about $2.5 million. After our August payments are paid, we pay the bonds twice a year. So with that balance in INS and with anywhere in the range of 38 cents to 41 cents would be sufficient to meet the bond obligation, the payments.
Okay.
That's something we would work with the financial advisors and on how the bond would be structured in reference to the average lifespan of whatever the material may be. If the AstroTurf has a life expectancy of 10 years, and that would be structured in the early years of the bond payment so that it would meet state law and it requires you a certain number of years past that life expectancy. So that kind of structuring is done by the financial advisors in consultation with our bond counsel to make sure that it meets scrutiny from the Attorney General or the state of Texas as they review, since they're backed by the Permanent School Fund. So if you're talking about the bond election, this is one of the answers. If we get into the public hearing and we're talking about setting the tax rate for overall all of the bond indebtedness, then that is also an option for the district to keep the INS rate at 38 cents. I will tell you that the hope is that there's a swing, because there's always a swing in property values. There's always good times when it grows and the property value makes you more and the rate can be lower. And then there's times like now where we lost, we have 899 million as the property values have dropped from 1.3 billion. And so when you have that kind of fluctuation, you have a little bit of fund balance in INS to kind of weather the storm and make your payments. But if not, then you can also use that INS fund balance to defease and make some bond payments also. So it's a complicated answer. It's threefold.
Yeah.
To the bond election, or the regular tax rate for our regular annual budget, or what do you do when you get too much money in the fund balance?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Guerrero, you had a
Yeah,
question.
well, actually, I'd like to I did.
Garcia left the meeting, we no longer have a quorum.
He's, who did?
Mr. Garcia, he left the meeting.
He's here on phone, he's here by
On the
phone.
phone, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about Proposition A. But, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I came into this meeting feeling kind of conflicted about this decision tonight. And only because, I agree, I don't know if the current time that we're in with COVID and everything is the right time to do a bond and maybe impose more taxes on our community. As much as I know we want to see our field fixed, our tennis and, you know, softball, baseball, everything, I truly understand that. But, I don't know, I think maybe we should, slow down a little bit and really think about what we want to do. And because one, we haven't, we haven't been able to fix or find out what's going on with our auditorium. That's pending. I mean, how are we gonna get into another bond when we cannot even find out what's wrong with our auditorium yet? Okay, I feel that we need to find out what we're gonna do with the auditorium. I just don't wanna, you know, shove another bond election into our community and for us not to be ready, not to know, and I mean, we haven't, I feel right now that our priority right now should be our budget. We haven't talked about the budget, our teachers, and what we're gonna do with the auditorium. And maybe slow down a bit with this and maybe bring it back, only because of the concerns that I mentioned right now. But that's just my opinion, sir.
Let me go ahead and comment on that and comment. I've been on the board for 8 years and then I served as administrators. We went through a lot of bond issues. There's some bonds that the school board and the administration will push because there's needs that we have, like the last one that we had. I mean, the gym and this and that and everything. And there's some bond issues that the community people want. I mean, this thing, on what we're trying to do is coming from a lot of members from the community. I mean, I had meetings with baseball parents and this and that, and they said, we're willing to do whatever to help pass this bond. So I said, the only thing that we as board members can do is pass it, and let the community decide. I mean, we're not gonna force it on them. They're gonna come out and vote and say yes or no. So I think that's one of the reasons that I started meeting with Mr. Ramirez, because I feel, it's a big interest in the community, baseball field, softball field. You mentioned the tennis court. I had a couple of coaches in our track meet that said, we'll never come back to Crystal City because of the track field, somebody can get injured or whatever. So these are community people that are asking for these things. And I felt that it was only right to honor their request and say, okay, here it is. Because we have bonds that we have put out there, necessities, and they had rejected them. I mean, so I feel that we're letting them, because they want it, and if we don't pass it, I feel that we're taking away from something that they want. So that's why I would want to give them the opportunity. Here it is. We put it, this is what's gonna cost or whatever. I mean, if you want this thing to pass, go out and get the people, convince them. And that's why, I mean, I don't think we're throwing it to have them pay more taxes, but like I'm saying, and I think Mr. Garcia also had the same situation when we were traveling with our kids were parents would say, look, I mean, you guys help us with this, we'll help you. I mean, this, we'll go to Jordan and say, look at this baseball field. And so we could never have something with Jordan, but we'll try something. So they're requesting us, and I feel that by not passing this, we're gonna deny them from what they want.
I mean, I understand all of that, Mr. Espinosa, and I understand that our facilities need some upgrading. I mean, I remember the bond that we passed for the schools failed, and you all tried it again and it passed. I mean, I remember all that. Like I said, I just feel maybe some of these things we can do in-house. I mean, we can do it ourselves with our own money and not have to pass a bond election. I mean, I just want to be sure if we can do it like one thing at a time, the major things that are really not usable or safe or whatever, maybe we can start there and go in stages to make the repairs to these areas instead of us, doing a bond right now. And only because of the current situation of COVID, a lot of people are not working or have lost their jobs. I mean, we don't even know what's gonna happen, and we're gonna have seasons. I mean, I'm praying that we do, but it's just so many unknowns out there, and it just makes me question my role. What am I gonna do? That's how come I'm being honest, and I'm saying I'm conflicted, because I don't know if I'm ready to make that decision right now.
I would feel like you, but I have heard from parents, I mean, and that's why, I mean, I don't know. Mr. Garcia, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I mean, I can attest to what Mr. Espinosa, mentioned earlier, but, traveling with our kids, obviously he's got a grandkid who lives with my son, and, we've had parents come up to us and say, hey, this is really nice, this is a nice field, and it is. It's beautiful when you don't have to cut a grass, it's beautiful when you have, obviously, fake grass that looks great. Obviously, that's not the case in Crystal City right now. I wish some of you board members would take time to go walk that baseball field so you can at least see where the warning track is. That's toward the back, where the outfield plays. There's rocks, there's grass that doesn't grow. The fence is not up to par. Kids can actually cut themselves because the fence is bad. The cement poles that are there with cement, obviously, there's over the years a lot of erosion where it has lifted up the cement. I'm talking about 4 to 6 inches of exposure. That wall is leaning. I just don't know how much more that wall can take. I do understand the COVID situation, but at this time, CDC, DEA, I don't think they care anymore of what goes on. I think sports are going to continue. That's my opinion. I mean, I've been kind of keeping up with Mr. Ramirez's emails in regards to the CDC guidelines. If the kid's not showing symptoms, it's up to the parents to send them to school, even if they give an exposure to somebody who is positive. I just feel that at this point in time, with the COVID being in about a year and a half, I think just life must go on. I know for some of us it's scary and risky, but that's just the way it is. I mean, just a year ago, I was in a situation where I didn't want my son to play football, but he wanted to. He was going through depression that we just decided to give up and make him happy for what he wanted to do. It wasn't fun watching my son at home with his head down, not wanting to do anything at all. And again, I think it's just, I know some of us have mixed feelings about this. I do. But at the same time, life must go on, whether COVID's around or not. I feel strong about it. I guess my question to Mr. Ramirez would be, Mr. Ramirez, if we decide to table this item, I guess, okay, let me raise that. My first question would be, if this passes tonight, what's the next step?
Mr. Aguilera?
Repeat the question. I heard something. If it doesn't pass.
No,
If it passes tonight, what's the next step?
Okay, so,
Can you get close to the mic so?
is this one of the mics right here too?
yes, those are the mics, and this is.
Thank you very much. I'm just sitting back and just trying to absorb all the questions and the concerns. What you're doing today is if you decide that this is what you want to do, is you're going to put the question before the voters and let them decide. Today, you're not deciding how much, how much in bonds you're going to be issuing. You're not trying to figure out or determine the interest rates or any of that. All you're doing is let the people decide as to what they want to do one way or the other. Once the decision is, if the bond election passes, then you as a board then can decide if you want to go out and issue the entire amount, part of the amount, or however, or not do anything at all. I mean, that's another thing that you could be able to do. But as long as you have that authorization from your voters, then you're able to, at some point in the future, be able to come in and work and do these projects that you have. So what you're doing today is simply deciding whether you're going to let the voters speak out and vote and let you know whether they want to do the bond election or not, or they approve of the bond election or not. So those are very important things. I think some questions have come up about the taxes. Some questions have come up about useful life and those kind of things. And I think Matt was prepared to make a presentation on the costs. And so I think it probably would be prudent for him to make a presentation on the costs, how they came across, because from discussions with them, they're saying that you can be able to do this bond transaction without increasing your taxes. And so, I want to hear also, how they're proposing that that's going to happen. And then we could be able to work from there. Now, I know Dr. Gonzalez mentioned there's a 50-cent test rule that you have to meet. That is the Attorney General's office imposed this administrative. It's also in the education code. The 50-cent test is just like when you go out and borrow money from a bank, you have to demonstrate that you're able to, when you're borrowing the money, that you can be able to pay your bonds, or the most on the year that your bond payment is the maximum amount. You need to demonstrate that you can be able to pay that within 50 cents. After that, the 50-cent test is no longer there. The other thing is that you are, everybody's at the mercy of what your values are going to go up. But Mr. Ramirez could probably be able to say, and some other folks in here that are more knowledgeable than I am, that your state assistance depends on how property rich or property poor you are on the school district. I remember the very first elections that we did here for Crystal City, the state assistance, there's no way that the district could have been able to afford it without getting upwards in about 80% or more from state assistance. I hope, I never thought I'd see Crystal City being at the 1 billion mark in values, but I know that things change.
Mr. Ramirez?
Hold on, we have no speaker.
Okay.
And so those things can be
But officially called by Mr. Ramirez or Superintendent Ramirez, one of the two.
able to control later on at some point.
For the record, Mr. Bonilla just came in on his phone.
By phone.
Okay, go ahead. Sir.
Am I online?
You're on phone, sir. You're gonna be through the phone.
I understand.
Don't run out of battery. Plug it in.
Right.
Right here next to me.
Okay, go ahead.
But I think that if you, I would like, if it's okay with the board to allow Mr. Lujan to make his presentation, because it goes hand in hand. My item is just, do you want to accept the bond order or not? That's it, pretty much. And I can explain to you, I'm happy to go over the useful life. I'm happy to explain why it is we have 3 propositions as opposed to 1, how all that works. Happy to answer all that. But I think if Mr. Lujan is,
well, you can make the presentation and it's something.
and that way, he'll,
Gonna help the board members.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Espinoza. For the record, again, Matt Lujan, the Estrada and Host, and we serve as financial advisors to the district. So we're going to go for just a few slides in this presentation.
Can you hear the presenter, sir?
Barely, but it's okay. It's a reference to that action item, right?
yes.
Okay.
I can move up there if that's better.
Oh, I'll go there.
Thank you. Mr. Bonilla, can you hear me better?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll go over just a couple slides, just an overview of the bond election, the financing of the proposed bond election. But things I just wanted to point out right off the bat is, if you go to the first slide, it shows the propositions, Prop A, Prop B, Prop C, and their respective projects and the funds associated, or estimated funds associated with each project. Looking at Prop C, I just want to point out that that is on the M&O side, those time warrants. And so we discussed trying to pay that with INS fund balance. At this time, that's not feasible. We'd have to, and Mr. Aguilar, correct me if I'm wrong, but we'd have to refund those to be able to pay with the INS. That's part of the Proposition C, was to refund the time warrants to move them over to the INS side. And the benefit of doing such is that beyond being able to pay with your INS, you're freeing up your M&O side. So I think these go out to about 2031. The annual debt service payment for the time warrants is about $80,000. So in essence, if you were to move forward with Proposition C, we were to refund these time warrants, you'd gain about $80,000 each year from now until 2022 to 2031. Around $80,000. The annual debt service payment is around that. That's principal and interest. That would be M&O that you free up between now and 2031. The other item I want to mention is, yes, INS fund balance is an option to fund some of these projects, and that's obviously an option for you all to consider. I just want to point out that the three months that was mentioned is the minimum. And from a rating perspective, if we are going to go out and get a rating, we want to typically have more than 3 months. So I want to caution you there as we draw down on that fund balance, on the INS fund balance, we want to also make sure that we have more than just the minimum 3 months. So just two things to point out from that perspective. But as you can see here, the propositions are laid out, just generally speaking of, we're looking at about, like as mentioned before, for Proposition A, about 8.34 million. We put 30 years there. I mean, I know useful life has come up. That's just the end of the term. We are going to amortize the bonds based on useful life, so the shorter projects will be amortized and paid off sooner, and the longer bonds will go out further. So these are just estimates again at this point. Same thing with Proposition B, the track renovation. That'll be amortized over the useful life of that project. And then we discussed Proposition C, which is the refunding of the time warrants to get them from their M&O, freeing up space there, moving them over to the INS. So pending any questions, I'd like to move on to the next slide, which is how we're going to pay for this. And these are all estimates, but if you look at the total, if all three propositions were to pass and we were to move forward with the projects in total, the estimated amount is about 9.83 million. Sort of breaking down by proposition, just so you have an idea of what the debt service payment would look like. We're looking, and again, these are estimates, we're using a very conservative 3% at this point. To put that in perspective, just about a month ago, we needed the refunding. Your interest rate at that point was about 1.1 for the tax exempt, about 150 for the taxable. So we're conservatively estimating 3%.
Yeah, I kind of get all this that you're saying and everything. At this point in time, Mr. Ramirez, what's your recommendation?
Let me go to the right part here. That the Board of Trustees approve the order calling a bond election in the district and other matters incident related thereto.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and vote on this to me because, I mean, I think we have enough information. This time I'm asking for a motion to approve the approval of the bond election. Sonia?
Yes.
We need a motion.
There's a motion on the floor?
Well, I'm gonna make the motion that we approve it. I'm making the motion.
Okay, I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor?
How about comments and questions?
Well, after we,
Before?
Have the discussion now.
Well, go ahead and,
Okay, again, just for the record, I do want to, support the bond election. I just feel the timing is not good right now. Again, for the record, because we have not been able to find a solution for the auditorium from our last bond. And two, I mean, we haven't approved our budget, our teacher pay scale, and, three, I know this is needed, and I wish that we could study it more to see if we don't have to pass a bond election and do it ourselves and, stages, just for the record.
we're gonna have that option, I mean, as Mr. Aguilera. Any more comments or questions? If not, I call for a vote. All in favor?
I vote yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Me, yes. Mr. Mata?
Yes.
Yes. Against? Or
I'll abstain.
one abstention, motion carries. 4 votes for the motion and 1 abstention. Now I call a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
Motion by Mr. O'Neill to adjourn. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, sirs, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
like you mentioned, I mean, it's not a done deal. I have to look at it, and
You all will have more time to look over